it up. Now kind of moving on to one of the more interesting things about the iPad Air 2, and probably one of the most fascinating things about this specific iPad, and it always has shocked me. It was probably the software lifespan of this device. So like I said early on in this video, this iPad shares almost the same chipset as the iPad, as the iPhone 6 for that matter, almost an iPad 6. This thing has the same chipset as that specific device, but funny enough, the iPhone 6 stopped getting support at like iOS 12, but this thing has continued to get iPadOS updates and iOS updates at a certain point, even up until now. Like, this thing is still being supported, which is so crazy because you wouldn't think that an iPad like this would still be getting updates, but that's not necessarily the case. You are still getting a lot of software updates on this device up until this point. Now, chances are this thing is not going to be getting any updates probably past iPadOS 14, so it's not going to get iPadOS 15, so I don't want to get anybody's hopes up, but the fact that it, stood the test of time for this long is seriously some impressive stuff for this specific iPad, and I think at the end of the day, that in and of itself deserves some credit for this specific device. I think the fact that this thing was able to withstand the test of time for that long is seriously so impressive, and I think, if this device deserves any credit, it definitely has to come down in the sense of just the software updates. This thing lasted an extremely long time, and funny enough, I think another huge asset of this specific device is probably the battery life and the battery size. This thing had a 7,340 milliamp hour battery, which is actually a really good size for this type of iPad. I mean, that's a massive size battery. This thing wasn't a crazy great performing iPad anymore. It doesn't really have any like 120 hertz refresh rate or anything like that, so it's a pretty base iPad in terms of just the features around it, so it doesn't really have anything that's going to suck up a ton of power behind it. So that is another pretty big asset of this iPad, is the battery life. And when you have something that's as optimized as iPadOS, I mean, you're going to be getting some really good battery life from this specific device at the end of the day. So in terms of the whole entire software and battery and all that stuff, this device really gets a thumbs up for me in my books for sure. Now